Stock up, stock down. I love to talk about our prospects, and the Cubs have 5 big-time prospects that are all either in the major leagues or in AAA on the verge of helping the Cubs team. We're going to talk about those guys. Could the Cubs be interested in a trade with the Red Sox for Rafael Devers? He's kind of wearing out his welcome in Boston. Cubs need a third baseman. And what are the biggest needs for the Cubs right now? We're going to talk about all that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. I know you Cubs fans can do that. And the Cardinals have won a few games in a row, but it's still too complicated to do that. And say, hit the bell. Let's go. Hey, everybody, Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball Channel, and it is my pleasure to talk to you guys today. As always, talking about the Cubs, and it's great to have you guys here. Also, I'm on the socials at Broadcaster Mick. All right, let's talk Cubs baseball, and we're going to start with 5 prospects that can help the Cubs right now, or one that just made his debut in last night's game against the Mets. So let's start this thing out by talking about So let's start with the Cubs' number 1 prospect. That would be none other than Matt Shaw. We saw Shaw in the big leagues earlier this year. He broke camp with the big club. Now he's back in Iowa. I don't think the Cubs gave him enough runway, 18 games to either sink or swim. But what we're seeing is that it takes time to go from the minor leagues to the big leagues as a hitter these days. And you're going to have your growing pains. And they got impatient, and back to the minors he went. His hitting coach, who is a really good hitting coach, Rick Strickland in AAA, says, hey, he's ready. He's figuring it out. Look, he's batting .333. He's got a .435 on-base percentage. He's getting things done, doing the things that we thought that he would do in the big leagues. But the biggest thing to me with him is just giving him the time to fail and then watching him turn around. And we've seen that with him at every level. He walks, so he gets on base. He plays solid defense. He's a smart player, so he's not going to beat you. But, they were worried about the exit velocity on the balls in play. I don't know if I even buy into that. I think that as you work through things, the only place you're going to get big league pitching is in the big leagues. And you're going to eventually start to notice those pitches and drive them. But he's ready to get back. I would not be surprised if he does not rejoin the Cubs sometime soon. I think maybe the next chance they get to bring him up, something happens, he's going to be that guy. But what we saw with Pete Crow Armstrong, and if you guys go back and watch 2 years ago, I said, hey, Pete Crow Armstrong's got power. He's got speed. He could potentially be, a 5-tool player, and then he gets to the big leagues and he struggles. And then he struggled last year. And then finally he's figured it out, and he's putting up numbers right now that are equivalent to Kyle Tucker. He's been great, but it took time to get there. And I don't know that the Cubs are going to be very patient with Shaw, although I think that he can help this team sometime soon. Now, the number 2 prospect made his debut yesterday, and I think potentially could be the savior of this Cubs starting rotation. You saw it. He gave up the home run to Beatty. I get it, but I thought that he worked out of some jams. I didn't think the defense was particularly great, although they were okay. I liked what he did. I liked that he went after batters. I liked that the slider wasn't its best, but it was good. He was going after guys with fastballs. Really, really excited about what I see from the 23-year-old. And he made 6 starts in Iowa, 1.24 ERA, 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, right? But he just did it in the big leagues. And so he's only going to get better. He's only going to get more confident. He's going to have bumps in the road. But with the Cubs situation right now with the starting rotation, having him there, knowing that this guy has, I'm telling you, star potential. I don't know how long it's going to take for it to translate in the major leagues, but he's got Pryor and Wood type of stuff. And his velocity was actually stronger than I remember it. So you haven't even seen the best of Cade Horton yet, but you saw enough to realize, hey, you got something there. And it was a great debut against the tough Mets team in New York. Now, the number 3 prospect in my book would be the number 1 prospect. Absolutely love Owen Casey. Casey, a lot of power this year. He's a guy that could hit 40 home runs. He's only 22 years old. This is the first time that he's repeated a league. He's always been the youngest guy. And oh, guess what? He's still one of the younger guys. Batting average could be a little better at 230, but he's on base percentage is 343, walks a lot. He is so dangerous when he puts the ball in play. You wonder, though, how the fit would be for the Cubs because he is a right fielder, and the Cubs have one of the best right fielders in the game with Kyle Tucker. And that's a great question, right? Because what do? I think what you do is you be creative. If you need that bat in the lineup, you use him at the DH spot. I've heard that they thought about putting him over at first base, and maybe that's something that he could eventually build into. He just doesn't fit into what the Cubs are today. But if the Cubs sign Kyle Tucker, then you ought to be able to go out and get a big-time pitcher for this guy. And remember, the Cubs traded Yu Darvish to the Padres to get him. His value has to be pretty darn good right now just because of the success he's had at every level. He's a good defender. He's got a good arm. He's a great kid. Big, grown-up head on a kid body. I mean, he's always been mature ahead of his age. And I think he's the best prospect that the Cubs have. I mean, he just looks like one of these guys that's going to be in the big leagues for a long time and is going to have a ton of success. Now, another guy that kind of fits that same mold and is the really the highest riser that the Cubs have in amongst their prospects is Moises Ballesteros. And everybody's kind of sitting back right now and looking at Moises Ballesteros from Baseball America just basically rose him 20 spots from number 57 to number 37 overall prospect. So think about that. I mean, and the reason why is that the guy's a hitting machine. 31 games in Iowa. He's batting 375, 4 home runs, 18 runs batted in. And what he did last year between Tennessee and Iowa, he's got great hands. He's got balance at the plate. He's got eyes. The guy can just absolutely rake. Now, the problem's been, what's he going to do defensively? Because he hasn't been the best catcher. But I've heard from people inside the organization that the guy went back, reworked his body, and is trying to become, because he was always kind of, I don't want to say plump, but, kind of a guy that wasn't in tip-top shape. And he was still doing all of this. And now, if he's reformed his body, it's probably a lot easier for him, and he can hit. But can he catch? You got Carson Kelly at the big league level killing it. Miguel Amaya, has done really well this year too. So that spot isn't there, and they haven't had any injuries. But they've got to just keep on crunching the catching and know that this guy could DH, he could catch. They put him at first base, but he's like 5'8". I mean, he's not gonna play first base. He's gonna hit though, and there's a spot for that. I look for him to be someone that the Cubs have in their lineup, the number 4 prospect. Before the end of the season, probably sooner than later. And then the number 5 guy is utility man James Triantos. Can play third, can play second. I think he can play some shortstop. Can he play the outfield maybe? Triantos, to me, is one of these guys who's got speed. He's playing in center field some too, so he is playing the outfield. I like his speed. The problem I have with him is that he's a hitting machine. I mean, he just makes contact so easily. He's a really good contact hitter, but I want to see him walk more. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. His on-base percentage is 264, and his batting average is around 220. So he's going to struggle. I mean, all these guys are young. They're going to struggle. But the biggest part of Matt Shaw's game that always made me comfortable was the fact that the guy walks and he's not afraid to get on base that way. With Triantos, he's a hitter and he's going to get hot and he's going to pound out a lot of hits, but being selective at the plate is something that I think at the major league level is really important. The guys that swing at everything, even if they're great contact hitters, but don't have the eye to stay off of the stuff that sometimes you can hit, but it's you're not going to be able to drive it. Seemed to fail. Albert Almora Jr. was one of those guys, big time prospect, came up through the Cubs system, really smart player, really liked him, but he didn't walk enough. So I think with Triantos, eventually he's going to turn this whole thing around. He's going to get a bunch of hits. He's going to be fine. But the key to his success to me is that I think that he's got to take more pitches and still take advantage of the fact that he can swing the bat. Now, the other thing I wanted to get into today was could the Cubs potentially be interested in a swap with the Boston Red Sox? And our friend Michael Bronner, who I absolutely love and is on Chicago Cubs SI, I've known him for a long time, put a story out on their site talking about the fact that when the Cubs didn't sign Alex Bregman, they put Matt Shaw there. It's not going well. They need a third baseman. Well, when Devers got moved off of his position because of that signing, they wanted him to DH. He didn't want to do that. And so they were butting heads. And I wonder how much of that is based on communication. Did they say, hey, Rafael, we're going to sign this guy. He's going to make our team better. I'm just letting you know because we need you to help us out before it was done. If it happened afterwards, sometimes players don't like that. They want to be the one to say, hey, I'm willing to do that. And then what if they say they're not willing to do that? You still go get them anyway. You hope that you have good team players there that are willing to do that. So then Boston's first baseman gets hurt. Now they want him to play first base. He doesn't want to do it. So, who knows what's going to happen. But could the Cubs go out there, make a deal for Devers? Maybe. And I love the thinking here by Bronner. I just don't know that there's a big enough. I just don't think the Cubs are going to want to buy into that contract. Plus the drama, it doesn't make him look good at all that he's not willing to take one for the team, as they say. All right, final thing on today's show, and again, thank you guys for being here. And last night's debut is one of the things that I feel like could help the Cubs here, right? Biggest need now for the Cubs. And I've got it for two. I'm not even putting third baseman in there. I think that it's probably, to me, the third biggest need for the Cubs. Are you guys happy with John Birdie playing third base? You ready for Matt Shaw to get back up there again? Whatever. But biggest need right now for the Cubs, to me, is closer. Just somebody's got to be the closer. And I worry about those games that are close every time we send anybody out there. I just don't feel like there's a lockdown closer situation right now. And hopefully the Presley proves me wrong. I don't mind. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not, whatever. But that to me is the number one need. The number two need is figuring out how you're going to replace Justin Steele and now Shota Imanaga being injured in the Cubs starting rotation. Big need right now for a starter. Huge need. How do you do that? And I'm hoping that it's Cade Horton. I'm hoping that Cade Horton is ready to start. He made his debut against a really good hitting Mets team, a hot Mets team in New York. We thought, hey, soft landing spot? No, right into the fire. And I love how Craig Counsell and the Cubs have incorporated, they did it with Ben Brown too, where instead of making these guys start, they use a reliever to begin the game, and then they bring the guys in just because of the nerves aspect of it. You're sitting there, national anthem, you're thinking. When you come out of the bullpen, I know there's a couple reasons why. I mean, you don't have to face the top of the lineup right away, but the other thing, though, is the mental aspect of it. So they've done a good job of introducing players into Major League Baseball. It's almost like when I worked at the pet store in high school, and you would get new fish and you put them in the little plastic thing, and then you put them you put it in the water, and then you let the temperature get to the same temperature as your tank so that it doesn't shock the fish. It's almost the same thing. And then the third thing would be third base. And I wonder, could the Cubs flip one of these prospects for a third baseman? Would you be willing to give up Owen Casey. I mean, I don't think I could give up Owen Casey for anything less than a stud starting pitcher. Just like you gave up to get him, I want that back now. And you got to believe his value's got to be really high compared to where, when you got an 18-year-old, now he's a 22-year-old that I'm telling you could potentially be a pretty big star. Everybody else sees it too. The scouts know it. So anyway, that's where we are. Cubs and Mets for the final time in this series in New York. And it's going to be Matthew Boyd for the Cubs, 3-2 record and a 2.75 ERA. And a guy that I couldn't believe when Griffin Canning ended up with the Mets. He's 5-1 with a 2.50 ERA. Saw him come up. He's a former second-round pick of the Angels. You wonder why the Angels are just continually bad. It's that you got guys like this, and you're not able to develop them. It's trades like where you give up Kai Bush and Edgar Caro for a couple dudes that you don't even have to finish the season out. Bad trades, bad moves result in bad organizations. And that's why when I tell you guys, hey, you got to be careful with these prospects. You just don't want to throw them out there. The Angels are a great example of why you don't do that, because this guy can pitch, and he's off to a great start. He's going to be tough on the Cubs, but hopefully they'll be ready to go. So that's an early game, and I'm sure some of you guys are probably watching this and the game's over. Anyway, like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thank you for being here on the Cubs Baseball channel, and this has been fun. We'll do it again tomorrow. Go Cubs.